thank you, Khenpo Kunga Sherab, so much for agreeing to answer a few questions for me about Torma.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. So first of all, can you start out by saying just a little bit about what Torma are?
In general, Torma are offering objects which are created by ritual specialists. And they are made out of barley flour, known as a samba, or wheat flour, and other ingredients. They are, often paint red or white color and decorate with other color of butter. They may be quite simple or elaborate, or they can be very small or as tall as a house or as big as a house. So that's like mainly the offering object.
So sometimes I know that Torma are used as like food offerings for deities, so they're meant to be food for deities. But what are some other kinds of uses of Torma? Are they sometimes not food but something else?
I think before we talk about the use of Torma, we have to know the variety of Torma in Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So this makes it easy to understand the use of Torma. So there are four types of Torma, something they call outer Torma, inner Torma, secret Torma, and most secret Torma. It is most common to use and talk about the first kind of Torma, outer Torma, and not the inner secret, most secret Torma. We're not talking that much. And sometimes we use and talk about another four types of Torma. I'm sure you heard that: pacifying Torma, enriching Torma, magnetizing Torma, and destroying Torma. So these are for tantric practice which need different Torma. Maybe I can talk a little bit for those. So Pacific Torma are white color with round shape. And enriching Torma are yellow color with square shape. And magnetizing Torma are red color with, I think, semicircle shape, which is like half moons. And destroying Torma are black color with triangle shape. So in Tibetan Buddhist tradition, we use Torma for 6 different reasons or 6 different purposes, I guess mainly. And we use Torma as offering for the deity, like you mentioned. And 2, we use as a food gift to poor being. This is like hungry girls, regional god, and naga, and so on. And 3rd, we use as a temporary and permanent home for the deity. So this Torma need to sung or mantra inside it. We have to put mantra inside. Yeah,
I'm sorry, you put some special material inside?
mantra.
Oh, mantras. Okay.
Mantra inside, yes.
Yes. Oh,
And
okay.
then it has to be consecrated, to be ritual. It is shaped like a Mount mirror, different level. So this number 3. Number 4, we use as a weapon. This Torma is used only when we are doing wrathful ritual. So something like within a ritual of Dharma Yundu, which means the Tara who ward off invasion, kind of like this is also very common. And 5th, we use exchange object. For example, someone very sick because of demon holding or harming this person. So we make the same shape or style as a person or animal. And then using a mantra or ritual, the demons see a more desirable object and taking the Torma and release the person or animal. I think this is same as small child holding our cell phone. We give something similar to take our cell phone, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of same object. And So sometimes we say this kind of ritual is called, I think Tibetan language called Sangju Chilu, which means 100 offering to the deity, and that ritual avert death, just save from the death. That's like a fifth one. And last one, sixth one, we use as a represent the deity. One Lama giving initiation, they use Torma, this is represent deity. So that's like 4 times. And sometimes we divide Torma in 2 types. We call Tentor and Builder. Tentor means support Torma. This could be like a deity, and it's like it's like a home for the deity. Tentor. Builder means offering Torma. So that's, I think, it's like we have to know differentiation, then just use different reason.
So are all of these, so sometimes people, of course, do Torma rituals or they use Torma in the monastic setting, in a monastery, but sometimes also in a person's home, people have Torma or are there different kinds of Torma that householders use compared to monastic settings?
Just like in Tibet tradition, when someone bad happen or something good happen, we invite the monk, ask them to do ritual for us, right? When monk do the ritual, they use different term for different purpose. It's like, for example, if someone is sick and monk are invite to their house, and then it's like do the ritual and monk use a torma. Or if someone want to build a house or start a business, again they invite the monk in their home, just like doing ritual and offering the torma. So anyway, just like I want to say it like householders house torma is less fancy and smaller, and their purpose is small purpose aim. So that's the monastery is like different. I think that's only different. Yes.
In a Tibetan or Himalayan context, who knows how to make Torma? Do householders make their own Torma, or do they always call some monks or nuns to come to their house to do those Torma rituals?
So in Tibetan Buddhist tradition, is anyone allowed to make and use Torma, but it is usually they call tantric practitioner or monk who know most about Torma. In the monastery, some monk called Chöpin, which means Torma master. This monk didn't know how to make a purpose Torma. So that's like usually say, I want to say monk who doing lots of ritual for people's house, or a monastery, especially making Torma. This kind of more knowledge, but anyone can use it.
And how does that person learn how to make them? Do they learn as children, for example, in the monastery from an older monk? I've seen some books, Tibetan books, that have drawings of Torma, but I'm sure that you don't learn from the book. You must learn from working with somebody else. Is that right?
Yeah. In the monastery, there is a special class where the Torma master teach monk and sometimes lay people, no, just like how to make a Torma. Right, in the lay community today, because of their as many ex-monk and ex-nun, right, there are many people who know how to make Torma properly, and there are even online class showing how to make Torma, as well as book on, like I mentioned, how to make Torma. So just like it's many years ago when I was seeking the UN, United Nations, give my monastery foundation to create an instruction book on how to make Torma, and they consider it is an important cultural heritage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, just like many people didn't know how to make a Torma. So even it is important to know that making Torma is one thing, but offering Torma is another. Even if someone know how to make a good Torma, but if they don't know how to ritual and how to offering it, then it is not so useful. Like someone know how to make a weapon, but don't know how to use them, so not that useful,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. And those rituals, sometimes they're very elaborate rituals that require like a lot of monastic training or special qualifications. But then there's some kind of householder rituals that any householder might know how to do, a simple offering. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes we have in monastery we have do tumchi, which is like a whole week kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's they need it. And Buddhist ritual texts. Sometimes we make simple. We can go from A to Z, just easy to go. And monastery, I don't somehow ritual first page 10, they go for 30, then back to 12. And we have to make lots of things, but it's make very complicated. So that means somebody who has a proper training, they know how to use. Others they cannot use. I think that's also purpose. And in answers, you're right. Sometimes we are very simple and only 2 or 3 pages. So that's very simple offering. But sometimes 100, 200 pages, very complicated. Yes.
Could you say a little bit more about the ingredients for making torma? So you mentioned sampa or other kinds of flour, but are there some other, and then butter, of course, but are there other ingredients, special ingredients sometimes that might be added?
Yeah, that's same as let's say different kind of dolma use different ingredient. Like for example, as for the Torma of offering, we mainly use samba, but sometimes we use wheat flour. And there are 2 reasons. Like in some country, you cannot find the samba. But another reason is that wheat flour lasts longer. And this is for offering Torma. As for the temporary, permanent home for the deity or Torma used to represent deity, we use like earth, silver, copper, and gold, and make just like make torma, and then just we use different color. So that's like a different torma use different material. Like I say, if torma for offering, basically you can use anything eatable. We can use it. If you make a little bit design shape, anything eatable, you can use it.
So sometimes you said you add earth.
Yes, earth, we
Is it?
make out of earth, and then after dry, and then just put the color. I have this
Ah,
kind of toma here. I have on
okay. Is it earth from a special place or any kind of earth?
any kind of earth, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, if sometimes you find a special place better, but any kind of earth, yes.
So that's not really edible. You said usually the ingredients should be edible.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what's the 2 types of toma.
uh-huh.
Toma for offering, we can use edible,
Oh,
and
okay.
toma for it's like a house for the
A house.
deity or represent deity, we can use this earth, silver, gold, copper, this sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
That's 2 type toma, yes.
And what about other relics or other valuable ingredients or medicines? Do you ever put medicinal substances?
Yes, they do. This medicine stuff. Sometimes I saw that some lama, like a special plastic bottle or just a glassy bottle. Inside they put all this kind of medicine substance put inside, and then outside put a little bit sambar,
Oh,
and then is the decorated with the butter. That's also so.
oh, so it has a small bottle of medicine inside.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I'll put lots of the medicine inside. Yeah.
okay. So they don't mix the medicine up into the shape. That
No, no. I mean,
why?
sometimes there's like just we can give the toma to the naga with the kursum ngursum,
Uh-huh.
3 white, 3 sweet, like butter, milk, and yogurt, and like sweet honey, this sort of thing. We mix also doing this thing, yeah.
Because the Naga like that.
Naga like that, and also more peaceful offering. It's like all color, not red color. If you peaceful toma is like a white color, and Rochefort Thomas is like a right color. Maybe I want to say a little bit something. This thing is maybe helpful. So I know there are Thoma in the Indian Buddhist tradition, but I don't think the shape and color of Thoma in Tibet are the same. I believe, well, Thoma originated in Indian Buddhist tradition. Tibetan Thoma are influenced by burning religion. So this makes Tibetan Torma unique in the shape and style and color. So, I mean, when I'm looking for the Indian museum or Tanga painting, I never saw that kind of fancy Torma, you know.
So there are so many kinds of torma, as you mentioned, some very fancy ones and some very simple, small ones and big ones. And you mentioned some different shapes and also different colors. But aside from that, there's like different designs for different rituals and different purposes and also different traditions,
Mhm.
right? So when you see a torma, say you're visiting some house or some other monastery, when you see a torma, do you understand what it's for, or do you sometimes not know?
Oh yeah, it's just like maybe just like in the monastery, Torma is used in the same way as household, with exception monastery Torma are like I say infinitive more elaborate in design and color. You know, like you said, sometime 20 monks will spend every day of a whole month making many Torma as an offering different deity, and then people come to visit the monastery to see this Torma. And this is like, I'd say this is similar to the Western going to museum to look at art.
Uh huh.
But we believe that visiting Torma, including the people visit got more merit. But I want to say that monastery Torma are used for the bigger, like I said, bigger purpose, like for the peace of whole world and whole country. And and like I said, Torma in the monastery is much bigger than household Torma. And but the other things like it's like mostly it's like color fancy. Home is lay people's house. We don't have that much time. Like invite 20 or 30 monk come to your house whole month, right? And you don't have that much space. Monastery we have a special, just like the Lavdan monastery. They're making Toma. It's like there's really also we have a secret. There have sometimes monastery have competition. So we're making Toma like a secret and just make your own thing. So that's also like different. As you know, not only Sakya, Geyu, Nyingma, Gilu monas have a different tradition to make different Torma. Even though, same school, different monastery make different shape and color of Torma. So I want to say these traditions are based on their Lama's meditation vision and pure vision. So, like you said, right? Sometimes we see the Torma, right? We can tell this is like different religion. It's Sakya Torma or Nyingma Torma or Gergy's Torma or Gilu's Torma. Even Nyingma Torma, Nyingma have a six major monastery. Those monasteries have a different style of Torma, a little bit different style, different shape. So the Torma is quite complicated.
And is it possible, suppose a monk is very good at making torma and spends his whole career making lots of torma, does he start to become creative and make new kinds of torma or no?
So basically saying is like, yeah, because sometimes Lama have a different vision and then also like they tell different thing. But at the same time, it's like a more creative, you could say, like, for example, say, one time I went to Bodh Gaya and monk from Bhutan, they're making torma. Just in the torma and they're making different fruit. First, I thought this is real fruit, not like a real banana thing, right? So that's you can make a different birds, different animal, and different fruit, different flower. So like used to, we never saw those animal, that birds. So you can create it. Yes, it's some more creative. Yes, Dharma
Hmm.
master. Yeah.
Those are the small decorations on the outside, you mean?
Yes, and also like we just Dharma make a five Buddha family. Sometimes 21 Tara. Eight types of Guru Pema Sambhava. Those all nowadays people use more because they used to we have only butter. Now just like kids they're playing something drop playing.
Yeah, Play-Doh.
Yeah, this also make Torma and
Oh.
that you don't worry about sun heat, right? And it also lasts longer. And compared to butter, this easier. So that's also now even make more fancy than it used to be.
Do you know, in reaction to current events like the pandemic, are there people making new kinds of rituals or new kinds of torma for the pandemic?
As new kind of Torma, I'm not sure, but they're doing way more ritual, and especially the ritual, we just doing something special, doing lots of medicine Buddha ritual, and they're doing Tara ritual, they're doing Guru Pemba Samba ritual. So like, mainly Tara ritual and Guru Pemba Samba ritual is like kind of preventing from this disease illness. And medicine Buddha's ritual more like people who sick, this kind of save their life, this kind of doing. So that, of course, then also like making lots of torma, doing lots of things. Yes, more ritual that's focusing right now, yeah.
So finally, what happens after the Torma ritual is complete or after a period of time? So I know sometimes you said you have an earth Torma in your house and maybe you keep that for a long time on your altar. But other kinds of Torma, I know they take out to the street, and sometimes the Torma is offered as a food offering. So what happens after the different kinds of Torma are sort of
that's
finished?
what Torma usually is. Like I said, we have Tentor and Budur, separate Torma, offering Torma. Separate Torma, like I said before, we get consecrated. So like until world's ending, it's I want to say I want to keep this Torma. We do blessing this ritual. This Torma we know throughout. We just that's so with this Torma you make even earth, right? Just like this thing. Some offering Torma looks like I don't know, just like after you finish your ritual, then you can just throw out and giving something. Sometimes Torma called Chujing Torma. Cheva means offering. Jimba means giving. Means first offering to the deity, Cheva, then give to the animal, Jimba. So the Chujing Torma, this is like we after finishing the ritual, throw out and giving something. But separate Torma, Tendo, we not throw it out. And sometimes monasteries they call Lotor, Yele Torma, which is we make this Torma, we keep until end of the year. So next year, we do special ritual, ask the deity leave this Torma, and then we throw out and put another Torma and then ritual for 1 week. They're called Lotor. I think there are 3 different Torma, Tentor and Lotor, and then usually Bildor. Yeah, you can see something giving those more like a Bildor, not Tentor.
Well, thank you so much. This is so interesting and so helpful to hear this overview of the different kinds of Torma and different ways that they're used.
Oh, thanks so much. Yeah, I mean, just hopefully this is useful.
Yeah, so helpful and so interesting. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yeah.